Hi folks, and welcome back to Fishing with Den. Today we're going to talk about bait preparation, and in particular we're going to be talking about preparing this stuff. Now if you're not sure what that is, it's actually wheat, the same stuff that they make bread with. Now this stuff was really popular back in the 1950s, 60s and maybe into the 70s for people who wanted to fish for roach. They used to use it as both a loose feed and also on the hook. What wasn't mentioned back then was carp, of course, because back in the 60s and 70s, carp probably weren't really a thing. In fact, I don't remember there being any particular carp fisheries around me, and commercials didn't start until probably the late 80s. So, a lot of you who are a bit younger have probably never even thought of using wheat as either a bait or a loose feed, or to go into your ground bait. Well, today I'm going to show you how to prepare this stuff. Now, a couple of things just to say before we continue. First of all, it's really cheap. A 20 kilo, not a 40 kilo, a 20 kilo bag, which is about 40 to 44 pounds, costs about the same as a couple of those small bags of ground bait. So it's dirt cheap. It's also very easy to use, and of course it goes an awful long way. Because it goes such an awful long way, what you need to do is probably not make up too much at the same time. I took one of these 1 pint or 1.1 pint bait boxes, and I put that much into this tub here, and it came to the bottom mark there. I put water on it and I left it overnight, and remember this stuff swells up really well, and so now it's at the second mark, so you're getting sort of twice as much that you started with. And what we're trying to do is to go from these to these. Now these have been in the freezer overnight because people worry that they go to mush, but hopefully you can see the difference in size. And in fact, if I just put a couple in my hand for you. There you go. Can you see the difference? Can't go down too far because it'll probably tip. But there we go. I'll just get rid of those. So yeah, we want to go from that to these. And to do that, what we're going to do is soak these overnight, 24 hours, something like that. You can do it longer, some people do, but 24 hours, and we actually get to a point where these are getting softer, but they aren't what we want. And just a quick word on safety here, guys. Never ever feed this stuff into your swim as raw. It's really hard, and it will feed the fish, they will feed on it, but the problem is, because it swells up so much, if they eat quite a lot of this stuff, it can swell up in their stomachs and really do them a damage. So always make sure you prepare it properly. And here we are then, as I say, we've got to this stage here where it does sort of squeeze down a little bit, but it's still pretty hard. I'll throw that in the bin. So what we have to do is to boil it. I've got my trusty single burner stove here, my camping stove. And the reason I've got that actually is because I used to do this on the stove in the kitchen, but we've got a new kitchen, so she gets a bit unhappy, shall we say, when I put it in. So all I'm going to do is just literally pour all this in here. That's about it. I might add just a little bit more water because you probably can't see it, but that's only just covering it. But I'll do that in a second. I'll use this one because it's lying there. Again, they're going to swell up, so give them a good covering, but don't take it right to the top. Okay, now we've got a decent covering. What I'm going to do is just boil this for up to about 20 minutes. So, bring it to the boil and then about 20 minutes, but it may not be. So, bring it to the boil and then come back after about 10 minutes and keep your eye on it. And that's what I'm going to do now, because I'm going to go and make a cup of coffee. Okay, I've come back and it's boiling quite well. It's only just started to boil because I did actually keep my eye on it, so I'll just turn this down a little bit. There we go. You don't want it to boil over, obviously. So that's just simmering away quite nicely now. This is actually starting to swell up quite well. It's not ready yet, and obviously hot water, be careful, don't burn yourself. Testing it, it does squeeze, but it's not quite ready yet. So we'll give it another 4 or 5 minutes, but we'll keep our eye on it to see how we go. Remember, we want it to get to this stage where it is actually still somewhat bigger than what you've just seen there. We're probably up to about the 10-minute point now, and I'm going to have another look. Sorry, I'm left-handed, so I'm going to do all this wrong ways around. Just let these cool a fraction. They're looking actually quite good. As I said, don't burn yourself. But the trick for me is to take one of these and just squeeze it. If it squeezes and squishes easily like that, it's ready. So, turn it off, and at this point you can allow them to cool and you can pretty much bag them. Bear in mind, of course, that this is still in hot water, so one way to stop them actually boiling anymore is to put them into some cooler water, just allow them to cool down more rapidly and then bag them. I put them into 1 litre bags, but it's entirely up to you how you do it. But you might, whoops, I nearly knocked it. Okay, you might want to do this and actually colour them. And the way I do that is, when it gets to this point here, which is just before they start to split, take these off, but any that I do want to colour, I get some red food dye. Don't think it matters whose it is or whatever. And for that pint of bait, I just use a single dessert spoon of red food dye. Put it into the pan. You're probably going to need to add a bit more water, because you'll see that's swelled up and the water's just about disappeared below them now. It's going to take a few more minutes, and what you're looking for is the seeds to be splitting, because again, if you look at these, if you can see a bit more close up, you'll actually see that they take on the colour because they've split. And before that, they really don't take on much colour at all. They'll take a little bit on, but if you want coloured ones, allow them to split would be my advice. And that's about it, really. That's all you need to know about the preparation. But before we go, there's one final thing here. Some people swear by allowing them to basically ferment. They'll get them to this stage and then leave them in the water for 2-3 days until they come off with a sort of a pungent, nutty sort of a flavour. And that actually, obviously, is a good thing, because it gives them a good flavour and a good taste. So not only is it a visible bait, it's also something that the fish can smell. And if you want to do that, feel free. Just don't go too overboard with the time. You don't want them to be going mouldy or anything like that. Having said that, of course, some of the specimen carp anglers out there do allow some of their baits to go well past their sell-by date, use-by date, as far as I can gather. And they'll actually put them in because the carp will still eat them. But from my perspective, I like my bait to actually smell nice as opposed to smelling like it's gone off. But anyway, I'm not a specimen carp angler. If you want to see exactly what they do, I'm sure there's plenty of channels out there that can show you. But that's it. I'm going to use these for the second part of my huge beans video. I did that last week, so you can check that out if you want to. I'll put the link up above for you. What I did was to use a hair rig on the river using cannellini beans and butter beans, which are even bigger. It had mixed results because the damn things kept breaking up, but I'm revisiting that one, and I thought I'd use these as part of the feed in the ground bait rather than using sweet corn, just to see how it goes. And it's also a good excuse to go back down the river and see if we can get a few big fish out. Anyway guys, that's it. As always, hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please click the like button. If you want to subscribe, feel free. And if you want to support the channel by contributing, again, entirely voluntary, but any small amount is greatly appreciated. So there you go. See you next time, guys. Bye for now.